Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching us. Welcome back to episode 43 of the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart of Midlothian. Joining you, as always, is myself, Ewan Ramsey, and Alan Scrimger. Alan, how are you doing, good sir? You all good?
Yeah, I'm good. All things considered, I'm football related. I'm good.
Just to kind of put this into context, Alan has been fuming all day, but this is why we have the podcast, to take things out on the podcast. Think of it as your punching bag, sir. So think of the next hour, like or so, just to punch it out. It's all good, mate. But it is the joys of it being a homeowner, sir.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up, mate. Yeah, but
Good
no,
stuff.
all is good now.
Fantastic. So, of course, our podcast for this evening, bringing to yourselves, is of course we will be bringing you the two games that was played during last week. Of course, Hearts played Aberdeen at home just on the Wednesday there, and of course we were away to Dundee United, which ended in a 2-2 draw at Tynecastle. So we will go through the two games there and talk about the main talking points, of course. And yeah, that's pretty much all that we're going to be talking about. We've got no real sort of news headlines to bring you, but of course, if we do hear anything, of course, and we don't mention it on a podcast, we shall most likely mention it on our Twitter, as we always do. And while we're on that note, if you are not subscribed to the Since I Was Young channel, please think about subscribing and smash that like button as well. We're going to do a small something for you guys. It might be in a week, in a few weeks, like sort of time, but it's just to give back to yourselves and just say a big thank you to everyone that got us up to 200 subscribers on the Since I Was Young YouTube channel. And honestly, guys, thank you so much. Obviously, we say it every single time, but it doesn't mean any less. It is really deeply appreciated, guys, and it means a lot to us. So next stop is 300 subscribers, so we will hopefully make that a milestone in the near future. But to all of you, thank you so much again. It is really appreciated. And if you want to get in contact with us through our social medias as well, you're more than welcome to. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at SIWY Pod. Alternatively, as well, if you want to get in contact with us through our email, you can. Since I was young, 1874 at gmail.com, which will be in the description. And alternatively, as well, if you want to get in contact with either myself or Alan, please feel free to do so. The links will be in the description to our Twitter pages. So, Alan, 2 games, 4 points, 6 casualties. What the fuck? 6 injuries in one game. I've never seen it. I've genuinely never seen it. 6 injuries, of course, from the Dundee United game. But we'll get to that one in a little bit. So we'll obviously start off with the first game that we played against Aberdeen, a 2-0 win at home. I mean, I'd say that there's a lot to talk about the game, but in hindsight, we were good and Aberdeen were shite. Aberdeen had nothing. Obviously, one of the main talking points of the actual game as well was obviously the clear-cut Aberdeen penalty, like, of course, that which obviously we will talk about, like, as well. But, of course, what did you like about the game, Alan? What did you kind of take from that game? And was that your kind of turning point from the sort of 1 or 2 months sort of disappointment and bad performances from 2022 from Heart and Midlothian?
Yeah, I think it probably was. I think we played the same shape, the 4-2-3-1, the same that we played in the game previous, which was good. Obviously, it won it. Got us the win in against St Mirren, which was great. And so I think I said on last week's episode, I wasn't sure what Robbie was going to do in the Aberdeen game, whether he was going to stick to that 4-2-3-1 or if he was going to go back to the 3-4-3. So really, really pleased that he stuck to the 4-2-3-1. Similar personnel, I think. In fact, there was a few changes, but yeah, it was just nice to see the same shape. And it's something that maybe he's looking at now and going, okay, you know, the 3-4-3's worked up to a point, but we need a bit of freshness. And it worked against St Mirren and it worked against Aberdeen. I have to say, like you said, Aberdeen were average at best, which was lovely because I can't be bothered with Aberdeen and Scott Brown and any of these guys at all. But yeah, look, Jim Goodwin's got a massive, massive job on his hands at that club, and I think that's the takeaway that they'll take from it. For Hearts, I thought we controlled it. I thought the balance was good, the tempo was good, the play was good. Boyce, although not getting a goal, probably had one of his better performances that he's had for a long time. Gary Mckay-Stephen, a player that I've been very critical of in the past, as have you, as have a lot of people.
Me?
Probably one of his... no, of course not. I must be mistaken.
Absolutely.
But no, he had one of his best games that I can remember.
Yeah, I agree.
In a Heart shirt, I thought he was really, really good. And so yeah, no, it was nice to see, because I think it's funny because we were speaking about this through messages and stuff, and said, that I was confident, but at the same time, midweek under the lights, you just don't know. It's one of those games that it could have gone one way or the other. And I think I saw a stat online prior to the game. It was something like, in our last 20 midweek games, we've only won 3 of them, or something like that.
Yes, something stupid like that.
Yeah, so there was always that bit of kind of nervousness about, right, we played very well against St Mirren. I thought we did really well against St Mirren to get that win. And then you're thinking, right, we need to do that again. Are we going to be able to do that again? But they did, and they did really well. And I enjoyed Scott Brown getting spun by Liam Boyce. I thought that was fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just nice to win a game that you deserve to win, and we played well enough to win.
Cannot agree with you more, Alan. Just to kind of go back to the point that you made at the start, like, of course, we were crying out for some sort of change, mainly in the shape and the system that we were playing. Like, of course, I totally agree with you that the 3-4-3 did work up until a point where I think most Hearts fans kind of expected like some sort of change like to happen. So in that same sense as well, do you think that with this current system that we've been playing more recently in the last 3 games, do you think that is something that we can kind of switch back and forth with for certain teams, or for home or like our away games? Like, is it something that you feel that we can rotate in terms of the system itself, or do you feel as if because this has been more of a positive sort of rotation of the system as such, do you feel as if that's something that we should stick with?
Well, I don't think the 3-4-3 has been kind of put in the bin. I think we saw against Dundee United even that he switched back to that. Obviously, that was due to injuries and having to change it. But I think it's nice to have the flexibility of being able to play different ways, because even when the team news came out about the Aberdeen tie, I still looked at that and thought that could be a 3-4-3. And I did the same with the St Mirren system the game before. When I saw the team sheet, I thought, is that still a 3-4-3? And then it was when you saw it laid out and the game started, then you realized, okay, he's playing 4-2-3-1, and the same against Aberdeen. I think for me, a big part of it falls on Stephen Kingsley. I absolutely adore Stephen Kingsley. I think he's absolutely outstanding. Probably one of a few in terms of nominees for our player of the season.
100%.
To be honest. But I think Stephen Kingsley at left back is better. Like, Stephen Kingsley at left back in a 4 is better than Alex Cochrane at left wing back in a 3-4-3 for me.
Probably agree with you there, Alan. Yeah.
Alex Cochrane started the season incredibly well. I thought he was really, really good, and he just kind of went about his business quietly and didn't really get many headlines, but did well. But Stephen Kingsley is at left back. It's funny because he's been absolutely outstanding as a left centre back in a 3, and I'm sure he could do a job as a 2, in a 2 in defence. But I think at left back, you look at him and you see the quality of his deliveries, and he gets forward when he needs to, but he's also there at the back. And I think that's a big part of why the 4 back seems to work. And with Halkett having a competent partner in John Souttar next to him, they work well in a 2. Atkinson at right back has some learning to do.
Of course.
But there's, I've said this, and I'm a big fan of Atkinson based off of what I've seen and heard previously. There's definitely a player in Atkinson.
Definitely.
That he has his weaknesses and he has his points that he'll need to improve. But I don't think we can really judge him until probably next season. Because he's just new, he's just learning, he's getting used to the cultures and the club and football and all that. So, but no, I think, back to your question, I think the positive of having different systems means that you can change it if you need to. And I think another point of that helps to have players like Andy Halliday who can play in multiple positions, Stephen Kingsley who can play either in a back 3 or a left back. We've got versatile players that can be moved around if we need to change the system. And obviously that was very relevant against Dundee United.
Definitely, Alan, definitely. And you mentioned him just there as well. John Souttar. Still can't believe he's going on a free, but I won't cry anymore about it. Obviously, it was a fantastic goal from the Scottish centre-back from a beautiful volley as well. Just to say, Alan, because it was from, let's say, a set piece, can we count that as a set piece goal? Even though it was from an indirect free kick. So in that respect, it was crossed into the box. It was headed down by a Hearts player. So can we claim that as a set piece goal? I'm just saying.
I'm claiming it. I'm claiming it 100%. I'm claiming it 100%. I was actually interested to hear what you thought, because I listened to Sports Sound on the weekend there after the Dundee United tie, and they were, or rather just before the Dundee United tie, and they were talking about John Souttar, and they were talking about his goal, and they were talking about Hearts fans being potentially a little bit fickle because he scores an absolute raker and we're all celebrating it. But the same fans were perhaps, this time last month were saying he should be sat in the stand for the rest of the season. I celebrated the Souttar goal when I saw it. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. It's a cracking finish, but I was interested how you felt about it, because obviously you've said there at the start that you can't believe we're letting him go on a free, and I think that's probably quite accurate for a lot of people. But I will celebrate any Hearts player scoring a goal regardless of who it is or where they're going, to be honest.
Oh no, mate, look, I totally agree in the sense that, I'll go back to what we said when the news first broke out that he did sign up a contract with Rangers. Look, I'll always say that he's a fantastic football player. Of course, with all that he went through, regarding the injuries that he had. I mean, technically, he shouldn't actually be, without playing now. Because those injuries were horrific. I said, the only thing that I kind of didn't agree with was the way that he went about it. Again, if those stories were led to be true, which I think they probably were, that when Hearts first found out about Souttar's decision to actually sign up a new contract with Rangers, Hearts found out when Rangers put it up on their Instagram page. So if that is true, if it is true, multiple sources have said it was true, but we had the game. For the life of me, I can't mind who it was against, but we had the game where the fans, every time, Souttar got the ball, they were shouting boo, shouting all sorts at him. Then I think that was more of the venting match to get that out. Now, again, I'm not too particularly bothered now because it's done now. We cannot change anything, now. So if he can, and I'll say, if I do get some flack, okay, cool. But I don't think ever since he has signed the pre-contract, I don't think he's kind of dropped in terms of his performances. I think he's actually been quite a good like I think he's been the exact same, like since the start of the season. Like you don't see him like when he did score that goal, you don't see him just like walking away, not celebrating, like what I mean. So
Yeah.
I do agree with what Robbie said when we were still in January. Like he's still a Hearts player and till the end of the season. So use him by all accounts.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's bang on, to be honest. One thing, obviously, I know you said that we can kind of call it a set piece goal.
I'm
Second
calling.
goal, we can. The second goal, we can certainly say is a set piece goal. We've scored from an actual corner kick, and I actually, when I was watching the highlights back again, I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Is this?"
Alan, literally, we were talking about whether or not people would celebrate if John's footer scored. I literally didn't celebrate, not because I didn't want to celebrate, but because I was in that much shock. I was just like, we did not just score from a corner. I have literally not seen Hearts score from a corner in a very long time. When that last goal was, no idea. I was like, did that actually just happen? Like, did Stephen Kingsley just jump, use his head to hit that round thing that everybody's chasing, and it went into the square thing that everybody seems to be trying to get the round thing into? I'm like, we scored from a corner, Alan. Scored from a corner.
I know it was a bullet header. It was a bullet header as well, to be fair. But I don't know if you saw. I saw a picture that was doing the rounds on Twitter, which I thought was really funny. It's the boy Ramirez, the Aberdeen forward,
striker,
and he's the one that was marking Kingsley for that header, and he's got his head like this in his arms, and Kingsley has a free header. Now, if I'm Goodwin or I'm the Aberdeen coaches, I'm raging about that, because if Ramirez doesn't have his head in his arms, the ball hits him and it's not a goal.
Exactly. Literally.
But obviously delighted it went in. We said it before, we're talking about changes of shape and system and stuff like that, but it's very, very clear that Robbie Nielsen, the penny's finally dropped, and he's thought, hang on a minute, set pieces, corners, these are like free chances at scoring goals. So
literally, Alan, like, because I'm glad you kind of brought this up as well, because I was wanting to kind of ask you, because I don't think, like, of course we will talk about the Dundee United game as well, but like, of course we did score from a header, like, as well in that game. Now, I'm not Sherlock Holmes, but I'm not finding it just a coincidence that we've managed to score from two, possibly three, like like if we want to count that one, from two corners plus a set piece as well. Do you think genuinely that in this short space of time, when not like sort of just us, but like a lot of the Hearts podcasts have been saying, like in terms of how bad we've been from corners and set pieces, like etc. Do you think that maybe something has happened during the small space of time, and just to maybe go one step further as well? Do you think we've maybe actually got somebody in to maybe try and enhance our chances of trying to get goals and like in the chances from our set pieces? Because we have been shocking. Like, I know we've said that quite a few times, but we have been dreadful when it comes to these sorts of things.
Yeah, I think there has been some sort of reshuffle in backroom staff, and I think because Robbie mentioned something about there's performance analysts and the first team coaches are working on set pieces and making things happen. Because, like I say, these opportunities are massive.
Absolutely, yeah.
I wanted to find out a stat before we sat down and recorded, but I didn't have time due to today for me being an absolute shambles. But I don't know in terms of average height of Premier League squads. Hopefully, I'm sure the stat will be out there somewhere, but if you look across our squad, our average height is probably taken down drastically by Cammy Devlin being 5'0" nothing.
And it's probably been dragged in as well since Nando left as well. So
well, that's true. That's true. But a lot of the players are 6 foot plus. I'd say defenders, they're all up there.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Peter Haring's not exactly a little guy. Liam Boyce puts himself about. So as I say, I'll look up the stat later on, to be honest, because I'm interested. Because if you've got a physical presence and you've got big players, it makes sense to try and make use of corners, because like I keep saying, they're free opportunities of scoring goals. And if the club have realised that that's something that you can, like a fine margin that you can take, and you can turn a point into 3, or turn a loss into a draw by getting a corner goal, which is exactly what we did against Dundee United.
Exactly.
Then it's worth exploring it. It is worth exploring it, and I'm 100%. Delighted that the club are obviously doing that.
Absolutely, because like you said, if we can, like I'm sure we mentioned it maybe at the end of last year, where I don't get the same sort of hopefulness when it comes to corners or set pieces up, like as well. Whereas if we get like a direct free kick and it's a Kingsley standing in front of it, I'm like, right, we may have a chance here. Whereas like when it comes to corners, I'm like, right, okay, cool, sound. But but as the game went on, Alan, of course, we went into the first half like you're 2-0 up, like you're quite in control as well, quite comfortable. Obviously, one of the main talking points and was pretty much all that Robbie talked about in his post-match interview. Like nothing like about that actual game itself, which kind of shortened my notes of this podcast. But so basically, he was adamant and 100% right as well. When Nathaniel Atkinson was trying to defend off, I think it was Lewis Ferguson, I think it was. Obviously, Atkinson has kind of put his leg out to kind of block the ball, and I'd say at best he's brushed Ferguson's toe or nail hair, let's say, and then he's went down like a bag of shite. And obviously, of course, it was a blatant dive, and of course, in the same process, conned the referee as well. Again, I mean, I know what your answer is going to be as well, but is this just more fuel to the fire just to get the AR in Scotland as soon as possible?
Absolutely. I think not even just that. There's been other instances. I don't know if you saw, there was a tackle on a Hibs player who I don't remember which one.
I saw this.
The St Johnston guy went over the ball, studs up, got a yellow card. Like that's a red all day. But there've been bad decisions in a lot of games recently. And look, we could have a whole debate about VAR. We already did. We already did a long time ago. And I'm sure we'll revisit it again when it becomes relevant again. But on the Lewis Stevenson thing, I think Atkinson's a bit naive to leave his foot out, but he realises and pulls his foot back.
Yeah.
And in the time he's pulled his foot back, like you say, Lewis Ferguson was already on the floor. I enjoyed, again, because I was at work during the Aberdeen game, so I wasn't actually there, unfortunately. But listening on the radio after, and Robbie's comments about Lewis Ferguson being a cheat and diving and all this stuff.
Which it was,
basically calling it out.
Yeah.
They had James Mckay in the studio on the radio, and he was very, very scathing of Robbie's comments. He basically said, what's he doing talking about an opposition player? Praise your own team. Don't draw attention to the dive, blah, 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 and James Mckay was just being a bitter high B, to be quite honest.
Yeah, probably.
But I did have a laugh about it, to be honest, because James Mckay was basically telling Robbie Neilson how to conduct himself in a media situation. And I thought, well, you've just been sacked by Dundee for God knows what. And Robbie Nielsen is currently the manager of the third best team in the country. So
There you
know
go.
your place and just shut your mouth, essentially.
Rock quote. I
But
love it, Alan. The rock quote.
yeah, but no, I think, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, literally.
But no, I just think that, like we said, the VAR debate will come up time and time again because it's going to. And
Definitely.
it'll be interesting to see as and when it comes in. I don't know whether it'll be next season or maybe the season after, but
Possibly,
I don't think it's far away.
No, and let's hope it is not, Alan, because obviously, like, throughout this season as well, just some of the decisions, not just for us as well, but for most of the games that happen during the weekends are just you're getting beyond the joke. But of course, like, in time, Alan, in time. And of course, then just 4 days on after the Aberdeen result with 3 points taken, we travelled up to Dundee, which was a very fascinating game, like, by all accounts. And obviously, like, of course, the main talking point, like, was, of course, that we had 6 injuries during the game, which was absolutely astounding. I know, like, we know, like ourselves, Alan, that Hearts can be a bit renowned for having injury problems, especially, like, during the season. But just to name the casualties as such, so throughout the Dundee United game, we had Gary Mckay Stephen, Cammy Devlin, Alex Cochrane, Nathaniel Atkinson, and John Scooter, and very late on, Josh Ginnelly. Pretty much the whole team, Alan. Like, if Craig Gordon was, like, involved in that, fucking call the season off now. Call the season off.
Aye, well, Gordon nearly was. Did you not see McNulty?
I know, because they kicked him in the fucking head, the little hide. Sorry,
exactly.
I was about to say that horrible, horrible word, but I do not want any more editing than I already do. So, of course, we will come to that in a wee second, Alan. But of course, not even a minute. 49 seconds to be exact. And of course, we talked about it was either last week or the weeks before. But what a way to end your goal drive with a cracking shot like that from our top goal scorer, Liam Boyce. It was a fantastic counter attack, like, pretty much set up by our main man Craig Gordon. And shocking again, Gary Mckay Stephen got an assist. What the fuck's going on? What's going on?
I'm telling you, he's a confidence player.
Well,
and that was him full of confidence, and then 5 minutes later he gets injured and has to go off.
Well, exactly. Maybe it might have been a bit of too much confidence, Alan. But there you go. But yeah, just touch on him briefly, Alan. Like, I've never seen. It's not to take away, like, Boyce's sort of accuracy, like such, but 9 times out of 10, it can either be just from a slight angle or just straight on goal, and then he tends to just knock it in. But it was a really, not a tight angle, but a very sort of awkward angle. But it was a really, really good finish, and especially, like I mentioned as well, 49 to take us in. It was a great start.
Oh yeah. I think, like, I'm not going to go over Liam Boyce's situation.
No, not at all.
We could be here all day. Like, you're either a lover of him or you don't. You don't appreciate him, and that's fine. Whatever side of the fence you fall on is absolutely fine. I've always said I'm a massive fan of Liam Boyce. I think he's an absolutely fantastic striker and an important part of our system. He's not going to score every single chance he gets.
No,
he's not. He's not a penalty box finisher, because that's not his game. But this is a guy who, I think, what was it, 14? Is that his 14th goal this season, or maybe 15th?
I believe it is 14. I believe.
Yeah. So I mean, he's not. I mean, will he get 20? I don't know, but he's not going to be far off it, and that's as much as you can ask. But no, it was a really, really good finish, and I hope that he now goes on a run and gets a few more, because if he does, then we'll be even closer to European football than I feel we already are.
Oh yes, Alan. To be exact, 13 points. Get it round. But yeah, and, like, I genuinely thought, like, when we scored that early on, I genuinely thought, right, this is going to be an easy afternoon, and was it fuck? So of course, I mean, in terms of the game itself, like, I mean, I say it was a fascinating game, but it was more just kind of fascinating from the score, like sort of context as well. But it's kind of just to kind of go through what we mentioned at the start about the 6 injuries. It's a bit scary. I'm going to say like maybe just over half of those players are key members, like the squad, like especially who we talked about, John Twitter, and especially Cammy Devlin, like as well. I mean, Robbie didn't go into too much detail about what his injuries might be, but thank God for the fact that we can make 5 substitutions, like genuinely, because that scoreline could have been a whole different story. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's the whole thing is with the injuries and when they were happening. Like after the first one, he changes it again and brings on, was it Cochrane came on for GMS, I think? Yeah. So,
it was, yeah.
And he played Cochrane further forward, which he can do, but is not his natural game. And then he changed the system again, and then he had to change it again when Devlin went off, and he had to change it again and again and again. And I said it on Twitter, and I still fully stand by it, that I do not like. We weren't great against Dundee United. We weren't great, but I don't blame anyone for it, because if you're having to change the system every 10 minutes, you're not going to have any sort of flow or any sort of rhythm in a game. So you're kind of just hanging on.
Yeah.
And then I think the best thing that we managed to do was get to half-time at 1-0, because the system and the plan, and as I say, we started in the 4-2-3-1, same side as we played against Aberdeen, exactly the same 11, which is great. But to then have to change it, I think he changed it to 5 at the back, and then it was a 3 at the back. It changed, I think, twice in the first half alone. So to get to halftime at 1-0 was an achievement.
Absolutely. And then obviously, like, of course, like, we don't have to go into like sort of too much detail like about it, but of course, like, you know, we let those 2 goals slip, and then we left it to the last 10 minutes as well. Again, from another set piece and a 10th goal of his Hearts career, Craig Halkett. I mean, I don't know how much he knew about the header, because when I watched it back and then I actually saw it on the Hearts Instagram page, like they literally slowed it down, and literally as the ball was kind of coming across, you just see Halkett's back just like slowly gravitating towards the ground. But either way, it was a really good header. And just while I'm on the topic, Alan, like, I mean, I think it was yourself that messaged me and sent the link about it. There's been kind of a wee thing floating about that Halkett possibly deserves like a call up to the Scotland squad based on his performances throughout this season. What do you think? I mean, I think based on this season, I think he probably deserves like a call up, but in that same instance, like, again, like, you know, we're not going to go into too much, like, you know, was it a detail like about it, because you know me, I'm really not a particularly massive fan of the national team, but you know, just with the system that they play, I'm pretty sure like it's a 5 at the back as well. It's just the kind of thing, like, I mean, would Halkett be able to kind of push his way, like, you know, into that squad, or do you kind of think that he, even though it is a bit selfish from our side, do you think maybe that, you know, he's been doing so well for us now, mainly, do you think that maybe getting a Scotland call up might be, I don't know, like, I'm trying to word it right in the sense that I'm not saying that he wouldn't deserve it, but do you think that being in like another squad as well might possibly maybe take his eye off the ball, like, if that's the right phrase to like, you know, say it?
No, I think he deserves it. I think he's this season in particular, he's completely changed my opinion of him.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I wouldn't complain if he was to be called up to the Scotland squad, because I think he absolutely deserves it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
If you're talking about form, I think he 100% deserves it. And like I said earlier about Stephen Kingsley being a shoe-in for a nomination for Player of the Year, I think Halkett will be up there as well, without question.
Definitely.
And I think it's interesting because there was an article in the Evening News today, or it might have come out yesterday, but I read it today. And he was basically talking about it. And he said, it's an ambition of mine to play for my country and to get into Europe and all this stuff. And he's like, obviously, that's why I came to Hearts. That's why I left Livingston and came here, was to play in these big games and play for your country, play in cup semi-finals, play in cup finals. And he's not really had much of an opportunity to do that for us yet in his time with the club. So it's nice to see him kicking on and finding a bit of form and confidence as well. Would he start for Scotland? I don't know. But I think being in a squad would be a massive reward for what has been a very good season for him.
100%.
In the same article, Robbie Nielsen mentioned Barry Mckay for another one that could potentially be in with a shout.
My wee man.
Yeah, he's flying. He's
he really is.
He's flying at the moment. I think he was the one that took the corner for the Halkett goal, if I'm right.
I think you may be right. I
think that's another assist for him, so that puts him further up the assist charts. But he needs to get a goal. But again, he's another one that could quite easily get a Scotland call up because, again, based on form, you can't argue.
You cannot. No.
Deserve it. But obviously, the selfish Hearts supporting side of me doesn't want any of them in the Scotland squad. I don't want them to be subject to any sort of injuries. But
definitely,
it wouldn't surprise me if at least, Gordon gets a call up all the time.
Yeah.
Suter gets a call up if he's fit. It wouldn't surprise me to see one of Halkett or Barry Mckay in the next squad. Whether they would start, I don't know. But it'd be good to see because they deserve it. They've been good enough.
Definitely, and you could even maybe make the case for Kingsley as well.
You could. I think the only reason Kingsley won't is because of the other left backs that we've got playing for Scotland. When you see Tierney and Robertson there as well, so it's. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those positions that we seem to be very good at producing left backs. We've got Kieran Tierney, Andy Robertson, Aaron Hickey, that we all know all about him.
Yeah.
And then Stephen Kingsley is a left back. So it's But it would be nice. It would be nice. But again, as I say, the selfish side of me doesn't want any of them to go because I don't want any injuries.
No, you and me both, Alan. Just to kind of wrap up the Dundee United game. It's probably no surprise what my answer would be, but I was pretty happy with a point. All things considered, with the injuries and with how the game played out, I was pretty happy with a point, and to take 4 points from 6 from both Aberdeen and Dundee United, all whom are part of the top 6 or 7 teams that could literally still make that Europa Conference Shaggers League, like whatever it is. It is crazy how close, literally 4 points separating 10th from 4th. It's been a freakish season, but that will be concerning us, Alan, because we're going to be looking at our passports. We're going to go to Europe. Can't wait. And also, another place that should be on the cards as well is Hampden, my man. Obviously, we can look forward to the next game that is at home next Saturday, the Scottish Cup quarterfinals against St Mirren. Oddly, a 7:45 kickoff on a Saturday, but that it is what it is. So, Alan, after obviously the 2 results that we've had this week, obviously my optimistic hat has been straight back on. I'm feeling a little bit more confident as I was when we last played St Mirren away. I think we've got a real good shout into getting at least to Hampden this year, man.
I think so. I'm very, very confident. But saying that, who knows? But yeah, I would like to see a good crowd. I think the ticket pricing's been pretty good for it. I think it's like £5 for a child or £15 for an adult or something like that. The prices
Absolutely
are
right, yeah.
ridiculously cheap compared to normal. So there's no excuse for the stands not to be absolutely packed. The excuse I have for not going is the same excuse I have every Saturday, is that I'm working, unfortunately. But I'll be there in spirit.
Of course, Alan, of course.
But no, I think we can win. I think the players are very motivated to get to Hampden and get to a semi-final at least. I'm not saying that we're going to go in and lift a trophy this season, because I still don't see it, but I'd love to be wrong on that.
Absolutely.
But I think a semi-final is a realistic target to go for, and I think should Robbie get this team there, that's a big success for him as well.
Definitely.
I think, prediction-wise, what did I say for the last game against St Mirren? Did I say a 2-1 win? Or what was it? Because I got it right.
You did get it right. So it was 2. Oh God, we are such Hearts fans, Alan. So
I just can't remember. I can't remember what I predicted. That's shocking. Hang on, bear with me 1 second, because I've got it written somewhere.
I mean, it is going to be at home, so that'll kind of maybe sway your sort of prediction for next week's game. Just while you're on that, Alan, I mean, I think, like I said beforehand, I'm feeling more confident about next week's quarterfinal in the Scottish Cup. I think, because they've not been mentioned that much, I think the injuries that we've currently got, I don't hopefully think they'll be too serious. I think most of them will be probably back, even if some of them start from the bench. I'm hoping that they won't be too serious. So in that same sense, and obviously because of the fact that we'll be at home, it's a Saturday night, 7:45. Folk will be up for it. So I'm going to go for a very confident Hearts 3, St Mirren 0.
Fair enough. So I've just looked at the prediction I made the other week there, and it was St Mirren 1, Hearts 2. So I am also going to go for a win, because why wouldn't you? Well, I'm not going to predict we're going to lose.
No.
So I'll go for a win, and I will say St Mirren 0, Hearts 2.
Probably a more accurate scoreline, Alan, but yeah.
That's what I'm going for.
Thank you very much, my man. And of course, we're not long far away from the split itself, and my pants are starting to slowly fill up because Alan has made a drastic U-turn, and he is still a mild 1 point ahead all that season, all through 2021, during the start of the season. I was coasting, Alan. There was a point where I was 4 or 5 points ahead. Of fucking cruising. So here we go. But no. I mean, we still have to think of an actual forfeit as such. I mean, I kind of want to see where the table is at. If I'm ahead, then I'll try and suggest something horrible. If it's kind of neck and neck, I might be right, okay, let's
come on. You know what the forfeits were. We discussed this beforehand. We did discuss
this, Alan, but as soon as I had my suggestion, you said no, but because we'll get fucking cancelled. So
we will get cancelled. We're not even going to say what that is. We're not even going to say what that one is. I mean, we just hit 200 subscribers last week. We're back down to 0 if that's the case.
Well, if you want some context, guys, to what that suggestion will be, look in your mum's drawers. There'll probably be one there. So yes, on that note, I think that on that kinky note, Alan, I think it kind of brings us to the end of the podcast for this evening. So to everybody who has been watching, thank you very much as always. It is really appreciated. And if you are not subscribed to the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart of Midlothian, please think about subscribing and smash that like button. As always, guys, if you want to get in contact with us through our social media platforms, you certainly can. We're at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at SIWYpod. Alternatively as well, if you want to go into the description and send us an email, you certainly can. Since I Was Young 1874 at gmail.com. And alternatively as well, if you want to get in contact with either myself or Alan, please feel free to do so. Our Twitter links will be in the description as always. So, Alan, as always, my man, thank you very much for joining me on this lovely evening talking about Heart of Midlothian. And hopefully, by the time we record the next podcast next week, hopefully you'll be slightly calmer and a very happy man with a win and a trip to Hampden.
Certainly hope so. And all being well, I might well be in a new setup because this is temporary at the moment. So hopefully, fingers crossed. If I'm not, you'll know. People that have seen my social people that follow me on social medias will be well aware of what's happened today. So, but no, the last little while talking about the Hearts and putting things into context has certainly raised my mood somewhat.
Good man. Well, hopefully all will be a good weekend for yourself and the Hearts next week, but time will only tell. But as always, guys, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. You take care. Bye for now.